checking every little aspect, constantly be just really heavy on the minimap looking, because a Zerg late game, I really think that he should be taking the abuse of the Nidus Worm play. He can start Nidusing here, Nidusing here. You've seen Spanishi do it to great effect, especially against the mech play, because mech play is obviously ridiculously slow. You can see Thors, they just kind of clumber along they probably weigh a ton. The guy inside of them is a total badass, but that does not, you can see like kind of like rock on bro if you look at the unit picture. You know, see there it is again. It's constant loop. And this Thor is just kind of doing a little bit of dance. He's trying to say, hey, I am not slow. I am in fact a total boss. And the barracks, excuse me, I can apparently not talk as well as have a cold. He's just kind of landing. He's just going to try to deny any sort of expansion for as long as possible. The Zerg player actually just opting to take every single expansion on the map. But the SCV player, the Terran player, is just going to be content off of 5 bases. Well, now 4.5. I consider gas a half a base because gas is still an extremely important resource. And actually mining out here, Zerg could just be saying, you know what, I'm just going to sit on every single map or every single expansion at the base, and I will wait for you to mine out this base and this base, because this base here is mined out, this base is already mined out, and this base is about to be mined out. You can see only 400 minerals on each of these. Or am I missing a Nidus Worm play? No, both players just content on macroing up. Again, they both hit 200, 200, and this mech army is just extremely scary, opting for a very high siege tank count with a high Viking count with a high Thor count. This is going to be extremely scary for the Zerg player to deal with, and willing to sack his 4 SCVs. That's really what he's doing. He's not sending them in for any sort of damage or any sort of tricky play. He's just simply sending them in, saying, here, you can have them, but I'm going to get as much scouting as I can. And the Zerg player saying, oh no, an SCV! Send the line, and he sends every single unit. Actually almost lost a Baneling there on the SCV. That would have not been worth it. And these SCVs are just mining away. They're saying, hey, we were supposed to be mining SCVs, I mean mining minerals, not mining SCVs. They are supposed to be repairing units and mining minerals. We're not supposed to be attacking a building. Why can we not have a gun? And this Zergling just comes in and he is saying, hey guys, look, I am going to get 3 kills here. Absolutely no problem. Pushing in, and if we look at the unit counting station, we can see 73 drones to 75 SCVs, so it's relatively even, but 75 SCVs is way too many SCVs to be supporting off of 2 base. You can see actually opting to drop a lot of meals, and here comes the engagement. The Ultralists are just streaming in, but this is kind of a bad engagement time. A lot of Vikings coming in, and there is a fungal growth on top of the Vikings. All the Corruptors are going to die. Both of the Thors are being neuroparasited, and all of the Siege Tanks are being neuroparasited, but these Siege Tanks are going to be doing a massive amount of damage, and once you lose your Siege Tank army, it is nearly impossible to rebuild it, considering that what a Thor takes like 50 million seconds. A Siege Tank alone takes 50 seconds, and is he even opting to get Thors out? No, he's not. He's just deciding to train more and more Vikings, and if I was a Zerg player, I'd really be pushing into this third. 2 fungal growths actually does kill every single SCV here, so if he fungal growths here and here, he will lose both of those. All of those SCVs, fungal growth here and a fungal growth here, will lose all of those SCVs. And there's not really much that the Terran player can do now, because mech play, once it dies, it is nearly impossible to reproduce a massive army. You'll just see these infestors are just going to clean up, trying to kite as best he can. A fungal growth will put a stop to that kiting shenanigan, but he's just going to be constantly raining down on these Ultralists. The Ultralists do have chitinous plating, which is a biological term, I guess. Anyways, chitinous plating is what it is actually named. It is not named anything else, and that gives them an extra 2 armor, which gives them a total of 6 armor, but that does not do much against a Crucio shock cannon. That is literally my new favorite word, is Crucio shock cannon. I'm sure it has some sort of meaning, but you can see, if he had just dropped another fungal growth here, he's just going to rain all of these units down. If he fungal growths, look at this, watch this. Boom. I mean, these Ultras are just eating them up. Goody can't really do anything here. This actually game was really epic and maybe was a little bit slow, but it shows an excellent example of micro. And this is a beautiful transition choice, because he knows that what does the Zerg player really have that is anti-air? He has absolutely nothing, so he's going to have to push back with all of these units. If I was Goody, I would really be pushing hard with these Banshees until he starts getting more and more Corruptors out, because that is what he will be opting to do. And you can see 2 Corruptors actually in the unit counting station, so he does not want to overproduce on Corruptors. He is fearful that these were the only 3 Banshees that were in fact coming out, and then he doesn't want to overcompensate for just 3 Banshees and build maybe like 50 Corruptors and have absolutely no ground army underneath those Corruptors to support them whatsoever. The only plus about a Corruptor is that if you do not see that many air units that can shoot down, like a Banshee for example, you can just simply morph them into Broodlords. Wow, my voice is getting tired, but we can see that actually deciding to bust down these rocks, he will lose this barracks here, but fortunately enough for the Terran player, he's just going to be laughing a little bit, saying a barracks cannot, in fact, mine any minerals, and the driver in there is probably a little bit sad, because the sad life of a driver and the sad truth of a driver is that he can see his own fate through this little window here. He sees all the ultralists coming, and he's like, hey, are you gonna lift me? Are you gonna lift me off? But no, he does not, and so he will in fact go to his doom. This is kind of a really tight siege tank line. He maybe should have spread out his siege tanks a little bit more, and that would have prevented him. Maybe throw up Cloak, but Cloak is actually not even being researched. I do not know why he is still opting to get Hellions. Hellions don't do anything against armored units, and that is all that he has, is massive biological armored units. The Thor is saying, holy crap, I have finally found something that is bigger than me. But these siege tanks here, I think these siege tanks have been here the entire game. Look at this guy. This guy's being a boss, man. He's probably just laughing at all the siege tanks down here, saying, hey man, no fair, why do you get to stay up there? And he's saying, because I am in fact a corporal with 9 kills, and you are a mere recruit. Maybe if you get 9 kills like me, you can stay up here. And the other guy is just saying, well, I am close second with 8 kills. You are all screwed, and I will just be able to view it over the top. This is actually a really nice play. If I was a Terran player on this map, I would definitely recommend at least putting your 2 siege tanks here. You can see that these siege tanks have done a crazy amount of damage. They've really denied any sort of Zerg push into here. I think Goody would have lost a long time ago if it wasn't for these 2 siege tanks. And I would really recommend Goody to be getting +3/+3. I mean, it doesn't help as much as +2/+2, but it's still an upgrade, and you can see that the Zerg did get +3/+3. And I mean, all it does is really just kind of reduces the damage by a little bit. I'm not sure how much an armor reduces. And these larvae are kind of desperately trying to crawl, desperately trying to stay on the creep, because once the creep does recede, they all die. And you can see 1, wait for it, 2, 3, they all die, and there's really nothing that the little larva can do except pray to be trained into a drone or maybe an ultralisk. That is right, I did call them ultralisks. I really like this tech switch by Goody though, using the Banshee kind of harass. I think the Zerg player could have ended this a long time ago if he really wanted to. He does have a 40 supply lead, but that is the bane of some Zerg players, I will admit, is they do not know when to be that aggressive, and these Banshees are just going to do an amazing amount of damage because they can deny this expansion really easily, deny this expansion here, kind of push up into here, maybe snipe the Greater Spire. If he can snipe the Greater Spire, that'd be a huge time, or a huge amount of time, because it does take, how long does it take to build a Spire? Looks like it takes 100 seconds to build a Spire, and actually he's opting, okay, just sending in the Corruptors. I think he's just trying to scout, see what the Terran player does in fact have, if he has any sort of protection there. And I really think that the Zerg player should be switching into some sort of Nidus play, switching into something other than the classic let's just stand here with a maxed army and do absolutely nothing playstyle, because that has never really benefited anyone, now has it? The Terran player is opting to drop another orbital expansion here. This is really truly a kind of late macro game that you encounter almost never. And I think that we were just waiting for that inevitable swarm push, just morphing in a crap ton of Banelings, saying, why the hell not? You have Hellions, and I will blow those Hellions up with my Banelings, because Hellions only have 90 HP, and here comes the push. We're actually may see a final confrontation. He's going to force this orbital command here to be, in fact, lifted off, because there's nothing that really the Terran player can do. He's kind of stuck here. That is the bane of the mech play, is that the Zerg is content with saying, okay, you sit there, I'm just going to expand here, I'm going to expand here, I'll expand everywhere, and I think he is gearing up for his big final push. And the siege tanks here are going to be caught horribly out of position. If the Zerg player does see it, he'll fungal growth. And will he fungal growth? No, he will not. But the siege tanks here are just going to decimate. He really should be going for mass corruptor, mass brood lord play. I think that would have been much more effective. Battlecruiser is actually on the way. Very smart choice, considering that battlecruisers roast everything that anyone ever has at a very slow rate, because they do a minimal amount of damage. And I think that this is going to just be simply too much for the Terran player to deal with. He's losing all of his units, losing everything, and I think this is actually still an even exchange coming out, because there are 4 Banshees on the field, but the Banshees will lose out to the Corruptors, it looks like, so all that the Banshees can really do is just shoot away at these Ultralisks. He should really just say screw it and send in his 3 injured Banshees, but I think he has already chalked it up to a GG, because the Zerg player can in fact just macro up a new army. If we look at the production facility, we see 7 more Corruptors and a single Infestor, but both of the players are kind of broke, which is kind of surprising to me. If we go to the unit counting station, we can see 64 drones to 26 SCVs. I do not actually know how Goody has managed to stay alive so long. I think it's just because a mech army is pretty cost efficient when it gets maxed, but when you are playing against a 22 base Zerg against a 1 base Terran, the inevitable is bound to happen eventually, especially when you have a measly 24 SCVs and all you are really trying to supply your minerals with is mules. You can see he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mules, and this is going to be the final push by the Zerg player, and my guess is that he will win this game. Regardless, the Zerg player is probably actually a little bit happy that he did roast all of those drones, because that just means that he can build many more units. And Goody really just kind of trying to macro up. He is going to lose this game. I think he realizes that, but this is tournament play. So he is going to stay in this game until he is forced to GG out of it. And I mean, because, you know, who knows, maybe the Zerg player will die out of nowhere, or you will just disconnect. And I think that is what Goody is praying for. He's saying, oh my god, computer, please crash on me. If there is ever a time I want my computer to crash, it is right the hell now, because you can see that there is a almost, what, 16, 20 corruptor count, and I'm guessing a whole bunch of broodlords, 5 broodlord count. There's really nothing that the Terran player can do. If I was the Terran player, now would be the time to GG, or now would be the time to subtly turn your computer off when nobody is looking and just say, I don't know what happened, man, my computer disconnected, looks like we're gonna have to have a rematch. If that ever happened to me, if I ever did play in a tournament and that ever happened to me, I would probably cry myself to sleep at night, because, I mean, it's hard to get a macro heavy style Zerg player and actually pull it off, and it's hard to find a game where you can actually stop the Terran's aggression, because Terran is really efficient at aggression. If I was Zerg, now would be the time to push in. I think he's just kind of toying with Goody. I think he's mostly just trying to practice maybe. You see a lot of players, if they have a huge lead and they know that they can win with a single push, they'll just kind of hold on to it because they really just want to make sure that their keys are warm. And look at this. This is actually kind of interesting. The Ultralisk can't touch a Hellion back here, so if you are going against a player who is maxed on Ultralisk, he will probably be pissed if you drop a Hellion here, because they are actually untouchable until these minerals are mined out, and that will take a while. So for now, that spot there is the perfect Hellion spot, unless you are playing against anything other than Ultralisks. I think that the Zerg player is actually gearing up for an attack here, and we shall see. You can see that I'm picking up the pace of my voice just a little bit, because I am kind of excited. Actually, nope, let's just say, hey, let's split these Corruptors. I realize that they cannot shoot anything but air, but you know what? They will fly into the Terran player's base, none the frickin' less. The Terran player is getting 6, 7 Thors, and 6 siege tanks, and I really just kind of want the Zerg player to push in here and say, you know what, epic game indeed. Goody is holding on like a boss, and I think that if the Terran player can macro up heavy enough, he may actually win this game. I really want to see the Terran player win this game now, just because the Zerg is really, honestly, either he is toying with him or he is not a good player, and in order to beat someone who is good as Goody, it's good as Goody, get it? It's not really a joke, but it's actually kind of funny. Anyways, to beat someone who's as good as Goody, and you can see that the Broodlords literally regain HP when the Thors attack them. That is how bad Thors are against Broodlords. Just throwing a scan, I'm sure he's just saying, why the hell not? I have lost. And there's the GG. RG Matiz also saying GG, and I think that the deciding factor for this game, when you do in fact lose, was when the Zerg player held off that Hellion harass and he killed maybe 2 or 3 drones tops, and that is about it. I think that's kind of when you realize as a Terran player, well, I spent so much into that Hellion harass, it really did nothing, and I'm now kind of screwed because of it. I think that the Hellion harass would have been more effective if, after he pushed in with his normal Hellions, behind it he had built a starport, and then he built 2 medevacs out of that, and then he tried some sort of drop play in the back of the base. It would really force the Zerg player to just keep building attacking units instead of allowing him to drone up. And if we look at the end of the game here, you can see 32 SCVs to 74 drones. So a huge difference in the amounts, and this was a cast with ESC Goody and RGI Matiz, and this is Big Bear StarCraft, hoping you guys enjoyed it, and I am in fact signing out.